Hi, this is Eric from longboxreview.com. Welcome to the show. Today I'm going to try something a little different. For me, I am going to talk about some trade collections that I've read over the last several weeks and just give some quick thoughts. I didn't take any notes, which is usually what I do. And the reason I usually take notes is that when I do things like this off the cuff, they don't come across very well. So let's see how much of a disaster this is actually going to be. So today, I'm just going to give some quick thoughts about Batman Universe, House of X Powers of 10, and Superman Up in the Sky. So these are all hardcovers that I ordered. The Batman Universe and Superman Up in the Sky. These are collecting the pages from the Walmart Giants comics from last year. And then DC decided to reprint them as single issues, 1 through 6. I was waiting for a collection of them. And then I remember that suddenly, all of a sudden, people are talking about the trade collection of the both Batman Universe and Superman Up in the Sky. And I'm like, what? Because I somehow totally missed that they were releasing those in hardcover form. Or I forgot that I saw them in hardcover and decided that I'd wait for the trade. But then as people were talking online and social media about these, and I had some extra money, I decided to go ahead and order the hardcovers from In-Stock Trades. And then similarly with House of X Powers of 10, the Never Stay Dead podcast did an episode about this collection. And I was very intrigued by what Damien and Matt had to say about this book. And also things that I'd read online and through social media about this story. I was very intrigued. I've never been a huge X-Men fan. Never really got into that. I was one of those folks that, you've heard the comparison or the dictum. I'm not sure what word I'm trying to throw out here, but usually people say, well, you were either an X-Men fan or you were a Legion of Superheroes fan, and I was the latter. So my X-Men reading history is pretty slight. I haven't read a whole lot of X-Men. I like some of the characters, I don't know. They're okay. And I know that's how a lot of people feel about the Legion of Superheroes, but regardless, I was very curious as to this paradigm shift in the X-Men universe. And so I went ahead after listening to Damien and Matt talk about this collection. And by the way, you should just go listen to that episode if you want a more in-depth discussion about House of X Powers of 10. So anyway, I got the hardcover, and then as I'm reading through it, I kept putting it down and not feeling compelled to get back to it. But I did eventually finish the book, and so that's what kind of prompted me to talk about those two collections. And of course, the hardcover collection that I have collects both of those miniseries. So I have basically 2 Marvel and 2 DC books to talk about. So let's see how this goes. Okay, so let's dive into Batman Universe. This was written by Brian Michael Bendis, which is another reason why I wanted to read this, because I wanted to see how Bendis did Batman. And when Bendis was when it was announced that he was coming to DC, everybody just kind of assumed that he would take on Batman because Bendis is the street level hero guy, and who is more that in that area than Batman. Although I will submit to you, I don't think Batman has been a, quote, street-level hero since the 60s. So when he became a member of the Justice League and a deputized policeman for the Gotham City Police Department, I don't really think that moniker fits him anymore. Anyway, The art was done by Nick Darrington with Dave Stewart on colors, and then Josh Reed, Carlos M. Mangual, Tom Napolitano, and Troy Pettery on letters for this collection. And so it's Batman Universe because Batman takes a romp through the DC Universe. Past, present, and is it also future? I forget now. Definitely the past. And just different exotic locales. He goes to Dinosaur Island, which I love that. Although is it called Dinosaur Island in the DC Universe? I always forget, but that's how I think of it anyway. He ends up on Thanagar. Where else? Interacts with Green Arrow and Green Lantern. Well, here, let me just read the back of the book. The Dark Knight embarks on a global adventure. Batman takes on an old foe outside of the Gotham City limits when the Riddler's theft of a Fabergé egg leads the Dark Knight thousands of miles away in search of answers. When the immortal supervillain Vandal Savage joins forces with the Riddler, Batman is transported to the Old West and meets the original owner of the egg, gunslinger Jonah Hex. Along with Jonah, the Dark Knight teams up with his fellow heroes, including Green Arrow and Green Lantern, on a quest to find the Riddler and crack the eggs. Good writing there, folks. Dangerous power. But will these superheroes get the edge over the most brilliant villain Batman has ever faced? Really? More than Ra's al Ghul? Or will the Riddler's nefarious scheme run its course exactly as the clever criminal planned? So, yeah, anyway. I kind of think the whoever wrote this back of the book blurb kind of overplayed the Riddler's role in this, but anyway. So this was interesting. It definitely wasn't, or it didn't go quite where I thought it was going with this. It was, I will say, just to start off, it was a fun romp through the DC universe, through the past, and with Batman interacting with the various characters that he does. The Green Lantern Corps does play a huge part of this, considering how do they say, the power within that Fabergé egg. And I don't want to spoil it, but that I really like that sequence. For those that have read it, it is filled with I'll say Bendisian dialogue. He has a particular style, a particular voice that comes across in his writing, and sometimes I think that Bendis's humor doesn't quite fit some of the characters, and I don't think it quite fits here necessarily. There are some nice bits. There's just popped in my head when he was interacting with Nightwing, which, spoiler, my favorite part of it, probably, of the whole thing. But this is or Bendis's jokiness, his jocularity, comes across really well coming out of the mouth of Dick Grayson, but maybe not so much with some of the other characters. But it's just a lot of fun, and there's a sequence there between Hal Jordan, Green Lantern, and Batman, where they're on, like I said, Dinosaur Island or whatever. Yeah, Hal calls it Dinosaur Island, so good. Anyway, Batman just declares to Hal, "I love dinosaurs." Hal, "You do?" "Of course I do. Batman loves dinosaurs. I have a giant dinosaur in my Batcave." "Oh yeah." I mean, it's funny, but it's like that seems weird coming out of Batman's mouth, but that's that's also one of the reasons why I love different creators or different creators' interpretations of these classic characters, because then we get this kind of not so antisocial Batman. He's quite friendly and joking, and so it kind of calls to an earlier time of Batman publishing history. So I don't mind that at all. It's just, if you've read enough Bendis, you see he employs the same kinds of tropes and cadence to his dialogue that I see in Batman Universe. Not that that's a bad thing. It's just something that I find a bit distracting in this book. Whereas I don't see that in other of his works. I was thinking his Daredevil work, well, really just his Marvel work. Although I want to say that he doesn't really do this that much, or at least I'm not noticing as much in the Superman books. A little bit, but maybe not as much as in here. But then again, I was reading this, all 6 issues of this collection, all at once. This book I did not put down and didn't feel compelled to go back to it. I read it pretty quickly. I read it over the course of a few nights as I was as I went to bed. So that's kind of how I have to read comics these days. Is in the 10 or 15 minutes before I need to go to sleep, I read a little bit, and so I was anxious to read this every night and get through it and quite enjoyed it. The Nick Darrington art is fantastic in here. I think it goes really well with the tone that I think Bendis is going for in terms of the dialogue with the characters. Oh yeah. Speaking of that, characters and tone, I'll harp on Bendis a little bit more. Boy, whereas I don't mind the way that he's portraying Bruce Wayne Batman in this, I cannot stand his Vandal Savage. So anyway, enough. I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, the Nick Darrington art is wonderful. I love that we get to see Darrington's interpretation of Thanagar and Dinosaur Island and other places as well. There's this great scene in here where Batman is trapped inside something, I'll just say. And I love the colors of this. So Dave Stewart did a good job on that. There's a sequence in here also where basically Batman's existence is erased. And so we get to see like an alternate history type situation, reality altering situation that was kind of neat to see, but it was really quickly done. So didn't quite have the impact I thought that it could have, but still effective. And the back of the book has a bunch of covers for, I think they're cover images, or I'm not quite sure what these are. Anyway, those are beautiful. I think Nick Darrington does a great job in terms of like cover images or one page storytelling type stuff. Yeah, that one with Batman and Nightwing is pretty cool. Anyway, so that nicely done. I quite enjoyed this book. If you like a across the DC universe type story, past and present, and Batman doing kind of in fact, this kind of reminds me of, especially because of the Green Lantern connection that's in here. Reminded me of a few Brave and the Bold issues where Batman interacted with Green Lantern and the Guardians of the Universe. So that kind of cosmic level. So Batman's kind of involved in this cosmic level mystery, and he's doing his best to solve it and basically get back home. So quite well done. Okay, next up is the massive tome that is House of X Powers of 10. This is collecting the six issues of each, written by Jonathan Hickman. The House of X series artist was Pepe Larraz. Color artists are Marta Gracia with David Curiel on number 6. Powers of 10, 1 through 6. R.B. Silva with Pepe Larraz, number 6. R.B. Silva are the pencilers. R.B. Silva is the inker with Adriano Di Benedetto numbers 1 and 2. And color artists are Marta Gracia with David Curiel, number 6. So lots of different things going on, or lots of different people involved in this to get this done, I guess, with Clayton Coles doing the letters. So like I said, I was never really an X-Men person. So in a way, this is a really good introduction to, or at least it tried its darndest to get me to want to read more X-Men. It is a total change in the status quo. It completely rewrites X-Men history and allows for these great new possibilities in storytelling. Not just in terms of the X-Men's place in the Marvel Universe, but also the interpersonal relationships between the various mutant characters and also with everybody else in the Marvel Universe. Yeah, basically the book opened up with Professor X broadcasting to the world this message. Essentially, the nation state of Krakoa is now the country of mutants, and they declare themselves this sovereign nation to the world. And that just the political intrigue right there is just really interesting. Not only that, but they're offering the world these cure-alls for lots of different things, some cancers and some other stuff. But basically, they're like, "Hey, we're providing this to you guys because we are gracious, but leave us the hell alone." Is basically the message. But the story is told, at least the way that this collection is put together. I didn't really, like I said, I haven't taken notes, but I think this is the two series issues are interspersed. So while we start off with a House of X issue, I think we get a Powers of 10 issue, and it may not be just one for one throughout. I don't remember, but I do remember seeing the various Powers of 10 components just kind of flit in and out of what I thought of as the main story. So basically, I could be totally misreading this, but I think I enjoyed more of the narrative, the plot aspects of House of X than I did the Powers of 10 parts to this collection. I mean, while it was really interesting to see how things progress through time with it, I didn't. And also the adversary, the adversary of the story, the antagonist of the future antagonist of the story, the inevitability of the downfall of not only mutant kind but humankind as well, based on the actions that the X-Men take in, I'll just say, the present. So, they're fighting against their own future that they themselves have put into place. So that was interesting. But I have to admit that like I said, the Powers of 10 stuff was more or less interesting to me than the House of X stuff. There is a huge reveal that's been out in the internet verse about Moira McTaggart, and I really enjoyed that change to that character. Although, granted, like I said, I haven't read a whole lot, so I know of her. I know of her relationship with Charles Xavier. I think she died at some point, and so I don't know all the details there, but she definitely has taken on a whole new role in the X-Men universe, which I find quite intriguing. And I see parallels here. Bendis didn't have anything to do with House of X Powers of 10 or Hoxpox, which I just like saying Hoxpox. But Moira McTaggart is like the Rose character in Bendis' Legion of Superheroes, where this character, there's a time aspect to this character, and how both women are integral to the creation of these two groups. I'll just leave it at that. I find that parallel interesting. So, especially since Bendis was once wrote X-Men, and of course played around in the Marvel universe quite heavily over time. And much like Bendis, Hickman has his ticks, his writing ticks that you can see quite heavily in here if you're reading other stuff. For example, I am reading Decorum. I think I read issue 1 and 2 at the same time that I was finishing up Hoxpox here, and it you can totally see like the iconography that he likes to use, the text pages that explain things that are scattered throughout this volume. And it's very much the same thing. And I've seen him do that kind of stuff in other books as well. The Black Monday Murders, forgetting other particular books, but he likes to do that kind of stuff. And boy, he was doing that heavily in this collection as well. So I don't know. Maybe it's because I read these books, Batman Universe and Hoxpox, in close proximity with each other, that those comparisons really stood out to me. I guess just generally speaking, the art in the series I thought was really good. It did a pretty good job of being consistent between the two series. There's some wonderful pages in here where we get some. I think it's mostly in the Powers of 10 stuff that I really liked, where you got this stark contrast with the blacks and the different colors that I particularly liked. There's one issue in here, or one part of the story here. Again, maybe this is Powers of 10. So that's interesting that while narratively I didn't seem to gravitate towards Powers of 10 as much as the other, artistically I think I preferred it. So that's really interesting. But there's some nice shading. So there's these characters are standing among some trees, and the light coming through the area. Their faces, their bodies are shaded by the leaves of the trees. I thought how they did that was really cool. So things like that I quite enjoyed. It did remind me a little bit, and maybe it's because it's the same artist. I like I said, I didn't take notes. So when Bendis was on the X-Men book for a while with the original X-Men who came through time to the present, it reminded me of that. So maybe my memory's faulty, but there you go. So now I'm gonna have to go look and see if that is the the same artist. But I quite enjoyed it. As I said on Twitter this morning, when someone asked me about it, because I announced that I'd finished it, while I enjoyed this work, I think mostly because of my own ignorance of the X-Men, I don't feel a draw towards those characters like I do, like, for example, the Legion of Superheroes. This did not make me want to read more. Now, I will admit, the way that Marvel was publishing this stuff, so I was waiting for this collection, right, like I said. And then after they did the Hoxpox miniseries, that was done, then they launched a bunch of new X-Men titles, and they started releasing the trade collections of those new books before they released this hardcover collection. I think that was my memory. And so I did get the first volumes of the Hickman written X-Men book and New Mutants, I believe. I've not read those. I mostly am getting them because they were written by Hickman, quite honestly. So we shall see how this proceeds. But having now read Hoxpox, and if I had read this first, I don't know that I would have ordered those other trades. So it'll be interesting. Like I said, it'd be interesting to see if I continue with this stuff. Okay, on to the final and what I think of as the best of the three. This is Superman Up in the Sky, written by Tom King. Andy Kubert is the penciler, Sandra Hope is the inker, Brad Anderson on colors, and Clayton Cole's letterer. So, wow, Clayton Coles gets a lot of work. So, this is Superman Up in the Sky is also collecting stuff from the Walmart giants. Like I said, they also released this as a miniseries as well after that, and now I got the hardcover collection. So, back of the book, Superman takes flight in this exciting new adventure. A young girl named Alice is kidnapped by aliens, and Superman is determined to find her somewhere up in the sky. The Man of Steel goes to incredible lengths in search of Alice, taking on plenty of challenges along the way, including boxing against Mito, preventing a space missile attack, and fighting alongside Sergeant Rock during World War II. While he's away, he worries about the people of Metropolis as well as the love of his life, Lois Lane. That's way too many L's in a row, people. While on the quest to save Alice, Superman can't help but grapple with an important philosophical question. Is he doing the right thing by saving one person instead of focusing on saving thousands? I know that Tom King has his supporters, like myself, and also his detractors, which appears to be more and more people as time goes on, if you believe social media. I loved this work. I think in large part because of Tom King's vision, his interpretation of the character, the examination, as it says here, the philosophical examination of the needs of the many. Do the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one? And usually the answer is yes. But in this case, Superman is about saving as many as he can. I was going to say everyone, but that's the crux, is that that's the thing that he wrestles with internally, that he struggles with throughout this work, is that, there's this little girl out there who needs saving, and he's the only one who can do it. But is he turning his back on the world? And he does struggle with it. And that's the thing I really like about this story, is that it's not just a cavalier non-question in Superman's mind. It is very much something he struggles with. And not just once. It's not just, it's not like an epiphany or some sort of revelation where it's like, oh yeah, I can go do this because of blah, 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 blah. He struggles with it the entire time until he finds, spoilers, the little girl. And then along the way, much like Batman Universe. So it's interesting that both books are very much romps through the DC universe. In this case, very much not just DC cosmic, but because we see a lot of different alien races, not so many that are familiar to me. I might be, just wholly ignorant about this, but it also makes homages or even direct connections to existing DC history. For example, there's the famous Superman Flash race. There's one of those in here. There, the back of the book blurb talks about boxing against Maito, which I think is an homage, because I've not read it. Actually, it's one of those glaring holes in my comics reading, is the Superman versus Muhammad Ali. I don't know if there are any direct connections between this boxing match and that one. So there's that. And then there's also the Sergeant Rock thing that they mentioned, which was in, I think, 1980 or 1981. There's a DC Comics Presents, which, like the Batman universe, I was reminded of Brave and the Bold. I was reminded a lot of DC Comics Presents in this series, where Superman, quote unquote, teams up with Sergeant Rock in a situation similar to what we see here. It's not exactly a retelling, but I think of it as a reinterpretation. So besides that, the story is in a typical Tom King fashion, is not a linear one. There are times where the plot moves forward, and then sometimes we are thrown into an adjacent lane, if you will, no pun intended, where this is where Tom and company take a step aside. I won't say back, but a step aside to examine the inner workings of Superman's mind, the struggle he's going through. There's one particular scene or issue. I don't know, because of these things were presented in the Walmart Giants. They weren't a typical comic book page count. And so I think this is presented in 10 parts. I think it says, hold on. No, 12 parts. So that means they are 20, a 20, so what, a 10-page story each? I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But Superman's going through the universe, and he goes by this planet where there's this lightning that somehow zaps him into two, which is a common Superman trope. So he gets zapped into the Kryptonian, kind of cold Kryptonian Superman, and then the very human Clark Kent. And they have this, it's like struggling with yourself, right? And it manifests itself in a very physical, real way, between the personas of what Superman / Clark Kent is, or who, I should say. There was also this one of the stories or one of the issues was Superman trying to make a intergalactic call or interplanetary call back to Earth so that he could talk to Lois, because he's struggling. He needs, just like we do, even Superman needs to hear a loved one's voice for reassurance, for comfort, and so he's doing this, but it's like the planet of bureaucracy hell that he's waiting and waiting and waiting. And while he's waiting, he's daydreaming, and these are not nice daydreams about Lois Lane, but he's daydreaming how Lois Lane is being killed, either through accident or through malice by various people. Lex Luthor, Joker, etc., because he's not there to save her. And so he's very worried about that. And so he's wanting to talk to her. And then you get the scene where they actually talk, and it's so sad because Lois is busy and she's got to go. And, she's, it's very apparent that, that Superman needs Lois Lane more than the other way around, which is a nice change from the 1960s Lois Lane that was always trying to get Superman to marry her. So anyway, that's one of the ones I particularly liked. I've already spoiled that Superman finds the girl. That scene, I've read it twice now, and it choked me up both times. And then there's another scene between the two characters. Oh yeah, and then there's the little girl Alice, as Superman is returning her back to Earth. They have to make some stops along the way, or there's some impediments along the way that Superman has to deal with. But an entire issue, I think, is basically her asking Superman all these questions that a young girl of what is she, 10, 6, 8, 10, something like that. She's not 6. She's older than that. 8, 10, maybe. Anyway, as in, for example, who would win in a fight, Superman or Batman? And Superman tells her, Batman, for real? For real? Aren't you stronger and faster and you have laser eyes and he doesn't? Yes. So you would win. No, he would win. Do you even know what you're saying? I do. How would he win? I'd let him. What? Why? If you knew Batman, you'd know. It would mean a lot to him. Oh my God. That just tickles me every time I read that. So anyway, as you can tell, I really, really enjoyed this. I'm not the biggest Andy Kubert fan in terms of art, but I thought he did a really good job of conveying the emotional aspects of this story. This is in some ways a bit darker than most Superman stories, and I think Kubert and Sandra Hope do an excellent job at conveying that turmoil, that darkness that's kind of surrounding and also within the doubt, the disparity that Superman is feeling, the helplessness that he's feeling. Just all around, I think this is a really good book and worth your time reading it. So, okay, that is it for Batman Universe, Hoxpox, and Superman Up in the Sky. What do you think of those books? Did you like those books? Based on what I've told you, if you haven't read them, do you feel like you want to go read them now? And if you do go read them, please, or if you have read them, of course, let me know what you think of them. I'd really be interested in your opinions, your thoughts on these books. Like I said, I enjoyed all of them to varying degrees. In fact, I would probably put, like I said, Superman's my favorite, Hoxpox, and then Batman Universe. I know, surprising, right? Even though I had apparently or seem to have some negative connotations, not negative, not so positive connotations involving the X-Men. I don't have a connection. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, so there you go. And also, what do you think of this kind of format where I'm just kind of off the cuff talking about my reactions to books? I was thinking about doing more of this just because there's so many things that I want to talk about, but I don't have the time really to do an in-depth examination of something like I normally do. So anyway, let me know. I would appreciate that. You can email me at longboxreview@gmail.com. You can also visit the blog longboxreview.com and leave comments where this episode will be posted. Or you can just message me on Twitter at longboxreview. I would appreciate it. So with that, I will leave you. Thanks for listening, and have a great day.